Welcome to the Panic Button, everyone. I'm Nina, and today we're reacting to, well, if you haven't heard of him before, his name is Alok Vaid-Menon, and he is a American writer, performance artist, and media personality. Vaid-Menon is a gender nonconforming and trans feminine and uses the singular, they third-person pronouns. He's also a trans activist. So, why am I reacting to him today? Well, he released a video. I think this is a new video, because I haven't seen this before, saying some crazy shit. So let's react to this pink-haired beauty.
The reason people defend the gender binary so ferociously, attempt to ban books about gender literacy, disappear gender nonconforming people from public life is because they don't want to confront their lovelessness.
Hold on. How do you disappear people? Does that mean murder them? Because I haven't heard any stories on mainstream media of anyone murdering gender nonconforming people. Actually, I've kind of heard the opposite, if you know what I mean. So that's not true. And the reason why people defend the gender binary so hard is because we're talking about sex. We're not talking about the woke definition of gender. We're talking about sex. And when we talk about sex, we're talking about males and females. Now, most of these activists will try to say, well, there's not just two sexes, there's three, but what about intersex? And it's like, okay, you can acknowledge that there is an exception, but you also have to acknowledge that just because there's an exception doesn't mean that the rule doesn't exist, that male and female don't exist. In order to get that intersex person who is either leaning more towards male DNA or female DNA, you have to get a male and a female to procreate. So, that's why people defend it. Also, if we're not defending it, then we're not defending homosexuals, bisexuals, and straight people. You see, by trying to eradicate definitions, we're getting into Orwellian territory, and we're also getting into a lot of very homophobic territory.
That awareness that they've never been allowed to be free. It's easier to romanticize the unfreedom, decorate and accessorize it, mistake dissociation as an identity and a virtue, wear it like a badge or a family heirloom. So many would rather die than give it up. And all this pain, it shows up as resentment and retribution against gender nonconforming people.
Actually, I've seen the opposite. I've actually seen gender nonconforming people be very hostile and violent and, well, let's just say it, rapey towards people who are gender conforming.
How dare you make freedom real? How dare you make heaven on earth? I thought we had to wait for joy. I thought that wasn't possible.
What kind of books is he reading? Like, where is he getting these ideas from exactly? Ah, I know. From other people like him who believe in the same stuff and tell each other that they heard these straight people saying stuff. And so, ooh, I'm going to use that in my next video. It's crazy talk.
People are made to destroy their own creativity, their own simultaneity, their own gender nonconformity in order to receive love from their families and societies. If they don't see gender nonconforming people, then they don't have to see the parts of themselves that they had to cut out in order to be loved. If they don't see us, then they don't have to see their own pain.
So he thinks that gender nonconforming people are triggering gender conforming people because they're living their true self and the gender conforming people are not. Well, I'd have to say that's very, what's the word I'm looking for? You're making a lot of big assumptions about people you actually don't know anything about because you hang around with people like you. It's a big assumption to make. And for people like him who don't want other people to make assumptions, it's kind of hypocritical for him to make assumptions about people he doesn't know.
Their grief is so calcified, it takes the form of anger.
You're right. Your grief is calcified. And takes the form of anger. This whole class of people that he represents, they're not very happy people. I haven't seen much trans joy going around. I've heard a lot of trans women talking about gender euphoria, but that's just like getting a boner around women and children when they call you ma'am. And that's pretty predatory, I'd say. So that's Alok, who is a queer spokesperson and non-binary author. See, he refers, in this Gays Against Groomers post, they say he refers to sexually explicit books as gender literacy. Yeah, if you've ever actually looked at these gender books that are in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, you'll see that they like to talk about how to get on Grindr, how to give a blowjob, how to do anal sex. There's a lot of things in there that are absolutely atrocious that children shouldn't be reading. And if these grown men want these children to read stuff about gay sex and how to give a blowjob, well, then there's a lot more files within the trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming community than a lot of people are willing to admit. And I'm willing to admit that there are. All you have to do is look it up. Look it up. Look at his background, for example. What his Alok Vaid-Menon said that may be controversial, right? Well, I'm here to show you in case you didn't know. And I'm going to actually give you an exact quote. And here it is. Okay, so let me just open this image in a new window so I can actually read it. Here we go. So this defender of gender nonconformity says, these days the narrative is that transgender people will come into bathrooms and abuse little girls, which they have, mind you, as well as and impregnated women, like in prisons. The support purity of the victim has remained stagnant. There are no princesses. Little girls are also kinky. Your kids aren't as straight and narrow as you think. Let me read that to you again. Little girls are kinky, meaning minors who are female, and these kids aren't as straight and narrow as you think. Well, maybe because they're hanging around dudes like him who are being very predatory and talking to them about sex. So when you're talking to a child who has no frame of reference when it comes to female and male and sexual orientation, because they haven't lived long enough to understand, a guy like this is going to be able to swoop on in and give them a bunch of rubbish and talk to them about things that this child won't understand in order to get that child to, well, manipulate that child into thinking that being straight is bad and being gender fluid and gay, which to them is just bisexual, is a good thing. So when you have fellas like this talking to children, this is like having that predatory priest sitting across from them in a confessional and talking to them about how men and boys can be sexual, and that's just a part of being boys, you know. I've seen stories where a lot of these pedophiles, for example, will talk to children and convince them, mentally manipulate them into thinking that guys do this all the time. You know, when you're a little kid and you're fooling around with your camp counselor, you know, that's just what guys do. And it's a part of boyhood and it's all natural. Well, we all know that's bullshit, right? I would hope so. So why would majority of people be against that, but not majority of people be against this guy doing the exact same thing? These are my questions that I have. So, no, little girls are not kinky. And any grown man, no matter what his gender identity is, if he's saying that, that is predatory and that's pedophilia. Kids should not be kinky. And if you're looking at a child as kinky, you're looking at a child as a sexual being. And that is, say it with me, pedophilia. Yes. Okay. So why are we allowing people like this to have their books in classrooms with little kids? Why are we allowing guys like this to be in classrooms with little kids, talking to them about things that they shouldn't know about? Kids shouldn't know about sexuality. They shouldn't know about sex. They shouldn't know about it. Let them be kids. Let them run around and play and, you know, experiment with science toys and building and action figures and Barbie dolls. Wear dresses, wear pants, wear a cape and run around like you're Superman. I don't care. But when your activism is pushing for kink and sex to be taught to children, I'm here to say you need to be arrested. And I would like to know what you guys think. Do you think this is appropriate? Do you think that this should be accepted by society? I would really like to know. And also, you can hit that like button and subscribe, join our memberships, and I would like to shout out to our newest Blue member, Nancy S. And, well, comment below and have a good day. Keep your eyes open. Thanks.
Love you, love you, love you.